Hello, this is a video tutorial to help you figure out how to use and read and create a pedigree chart. A pedigree chart is a map of several generations of living organisms, and it tracks traits through those generations. When you use a pedigree chart, the squares represent males and the circles represent females. As you can see in this chart, this is the royal family from Britain. It goes back to Queen Victoria and Albert there, and this chart is actually tracking the recessive trait for hemophilia, which is found on the X chromosome, so this would be a sex-linked trait. You can see that if there is a male who has hemophilia, it is colored in orange, and there are no females who had hemophilia. It's more rare for females to have hemophilia because they would have to inherit two recessive alleles on both of their X's. So it did not happen that there were any females. Also, all of the males, as you can see, passed away before they were able to reproduce. So if you inherited hemophilia in the royal family, it is because your mother was a carrier and had one recessive allele and passed it on to a son. So hemophilia means you lack blood clotting agent. It's much easier. Does not stop bleeding the same way a normal person's does. If there are two people who had children, they're connected by a straight line, and their offspring are connected to a line as well. So this male would not be a child of these two individuals, but this male does have a child, actually 3 children down here in the next generation with this female Alice. So if they are connected, they are excuse me, directly related, and then each row represents a new generation. Okay, so what you're going to have to do when you are doing a pedigree is you're going to have to fill in the genotypes based on the information that's given to you. We're not going to do any shading. So what I like to do first is get the information, the critical information from the word problem, and fill in everything I know for sure. We are tracking the trait for right-handedness. Right-handedness is dominant over left-handedness. So this is a dominant and recessive trait, a complete dominance problem. I like to go through and fill in, like I said, what I know for sure, which means if someone in this chart is left-handed, they are for sure going to have 2 recessive alleles. So I'm going to fill in everyone who's left-handed I know for sure has 2 recessive alleles. So I'm going to fill in their genotypes that I know for sure. Okay, now if somebody is right-handed, I know for sure they have at least 1 dominant allele. I don't know if they're homozygous or heterozygous necessarily, but I know if they are right-handed, they for sure have 1 dominant allele. So I fill in the right-handed people with 1 dominant allele. So the point is to try and fill in the whole chart, or as much as possible. Now, there's some different information on the chart. Some of these things say heterozygous or homozygous. I don't know what they're homozygous for, so I'm going to leave the homozygous blank yet. I don't know if that's dominant or recessive, but heterozygous is pretty obvious. It's going to be 1 dominant and 1 recessive. All right, now I have everything filled in that I know for sure, and now I'm going to use the clues from the different generations to fill in the blanks. So usually, you don't have to do it this way, but usually I start at the bottom. I'm going to start over here. Okay, this is a female here, and she's right-handed, so she has 1 dominant allele. And if I look at her parents, I can see that her mother had 2 recessive alleles. So that means her mother only had recessive alleles to give her. She must have inherited a recessive allele from her mother. So this other allele has to be recessive. Now, if I move up and see what's going on with her father here, he has the same situation. His mother was also left-handed, so the only thing he could have inherited from his mother is a recessive allele. Now, if I had to figure out this individual, this female, it would be more difficult because I don't have her parents on this pedigree chart. Remember, she is connected to this male because they have children, but those two up there are not her parents. So it would have been more difficult had I not known for sure that she was homozygous recessive. Okay, now I'm going to head over here. If I look at these two parents of this last generation, there's no information there yet. They're just homozygous. That's all I know so far. So judging from the children, they could either be, one could either be homozygous or homozygous dominant. Not really sure yet. So let's go up to the very top and see if there are clues that we can use there. Well, there are, because once again, this mother, she had two sons, and once again, she only has these recessive alleles to give. So this son definitely got a recessive allele from his mother. Now, because it says he's homozygous, he must have two recessive alleles. Okay, well, that solves the mystery then. If this son only has recessive alleles, he only has recessive alleles to give. His children must have inherited a recessive allele from him, which means that if they have a dominant allele as well, they must have gotten that dominant allele from their mother, and if the mother's homozygous, she must be homozygous dominant. So in this, we figure out all the genotypes of the individuals. If for some reason you were unable to figure out this one, we could not possibly write a question mark if you did not know for sure. Okay? Or sometimes instead of a question mark, you would just put a dash. And that means it could be dominant or recessive, but there's no way to tell from the information on the chart. All right. Once again, this was a tutorial on how to figure out